Hey everybody, Anthony here from Awesome Anthony Productions. Spooktober is still not here yet, but I'm going to review another horror movie. This time it's about a woman who begins seeing progressively weirder and scarier things while nobody around her believes her and thinks that she's crazy. Nope, it's not Smile. It's the new movie from Neon. It Lives Inside. But before we get started, actually, you know what? Don't leave a like and subscribe yet. By the end of the video, I'm going to convince you to do it. Now let's get into it. It Lives Inside centers around Megan Suri Samita, or Sam as she wants everyone to call her, an Indian-American teenager so desperate to fit in at her high school that she's completely alienated herself from her Indian culture, refusing to speak Hindi or wear any traditional clothing. This in turn has also alienated her from her mother, Purna, played by Niru Bajwa, while her father, Inesh, played by Vik Sahay, is more understanding, speaking English to her and always wanting to talk to her and share in her interests. Sam has few friends in school, but she's caught the eye of a boy in her class, the cool, kinda jockish, but understanding and kind-hearted Russ, played by Gage Marsh, and has a confidant in one of her teachers, the understanding and supportive Joyce, played by Betty Gabriel. But this all starts to crash down when she runs into an old friend, Tamira, played by Moana Krishnan, who looks like she hasn't slept in a week and has a mysterious jar that's scribbled all over in Hindi writing that contains something.
There's something in here. You can't see it. It lives inside.
There it is! There it is!
And this something has decided to latch itself onto Sam, who has to figure out what the hell it is, what is going on, and how she can stop it before it hurts her and her family, while embracing her culture along the way. Alright, so there's a lot that I have to say about this movie, but I'll say right now that it's not straight up good or bad in my opinion. It's definitely a mixed, kind of messy bag with some good and bad elements.
It's a mixed bag.
So I'll start with the good. Though there's one part of everyone's performance that really got on my nerves, but I can really blame the director for that. I'll talk about that later. I'll say that the cast is all great here, especially Megan Suri, who has a role similar to Sosie Bacon's from Smile, and yes, I will be bringing that movie up again later, in that she has to balance a very realistic portrayal of depression, anxiety, and real mental illness, all while handling some real emotional depth in the script, and selling the more boring parts of the script.
I'm bored.
Moana Krishnan has a similar performance, but after her initial scene, she's not really in the movie all that much, but whenever she is, she definitely leaves an impact. Speaking of these two characters and their performances, one thing that the movie plays up well, especially when it focuses on them, is a sense of dread that goes throughout pretty much the entire runtime, and it never really lightens up, although I wish it would have every now and then. Anyway, to keep going on positives, the Indian culture that is baked into the roots of this film, and dedication to Indian mythology, definitely gives it a unique identity and adds some flair to the creature aspect of it. I'm also a fan of the Spielberg approach to showing a creature in the movie with less is more, building up to a full reveal, and this movie does that pretty well, before leading into an interesting climax that I'll talk about a bit later.
That's interesting.
The score is pretty strong too. Okay, now on to the bad.
Get ready. Ready?
This movie did so much that we already saw in last year's Smile, but kinda worse. From meeting up with someone that's already been afflicted by the entity, to seeing some kind of horrific display before it gets passed on to the main character, to the main character starting to see visions and scary shit that nobody around them believes until it's way too late, to the way that she tries to learn more about what's going on, more about the entity, and devises a plan to take care of business, along with plenty of themes that overlap between the two movies regarding the story and the creature and yada yada yada.
Seem familiar?
But where Smile kept a truly nail-bitingly tense tone throughout the entire movie, and utilized formula and cliche to really have some unique scares in there, this kind of just settles for cliche, hoping that the added aspect of Indian culture will elevate it past a generic PG-13 horror movie. And yeah, there is some uniqueness in here, especially when it comes to the aspects of Indian culture, but for the most part, the jump scares are predictable, and 90% of the scares are jump scares, with an obvious setup that you see from a mile away that 9 times out of 10 involves the aspects of everyone's performance that I really could not stand. Characters turning so slowly to look at something. Every single scene involving a jump scare takes a character at least 30 seconds to a minute just to get to the scary part. Meanwhile, I'm just sitting in my seat like, come on, let's get to the scary. Clearly we know what's coming. This also wasn't helped by the fact that despite the fact that Megan Suri gives a good performance, Samita isn't really that likable of a character for a lot of the movie.
I don't like you.
She's understandable, yes, and you see the struggle going on between the two warring parts of her life and personality. But the fake persona she puts on at her school, the way she treats her family in the beginning, it all just kind of turned me off, and it wasn't until a deep conversation with Russ that's like over halfway through the movie that I really started started to root for her. I also don't really think Betty Gabriel needed to be here, aside from being just another character to bounce exposition off of that can get put into peril when all hell breaks loose in the third act. And she has no real development outside of that, but the movie spends a lot of time on her. Also, just like Megan earlier this year, I really wish this movie was rated R. Although, unlike Megan, there's probably not an unrated cut of it sitting around somewhere. Because every time that something interesting happened, aside from points where they purposely tease you to kind of get you interested and intrigued about what the monster is, there's not that much impact to any of the violence or gore or creature attacks here. You might see a tiny bit of blood splatter on a wall, you might see like some holes in somebody's arm if they got bit or something, but this movie really could have benefited from having a brutal edge whenever the creature attacks to build it up even more to where you're really terrified by the time you get the full reveal by the end. Although I understand they want to make money, so PG-13 was probably the right way to go, especially with how rooted in Indian culture this is, already making it a bit of a niche film to begin with. Moving on, like I said earlier, I appreciate the Spielberg approach to the creature reveal here, and the movie definitely pulls it off. But when it comes to the creature attacking whenever it's visible or invisible, aside from one particular scene, the rest of it is ridiculously neutered to the point where none of these scenes really have any impact, aside from the ear-splitting sound that's pumped in to startle you for a jump scare. And when the creature was fully revealed, though I appreciate the dedication to practicality and I thought the design was pretty cool, there are a few shots and scenes that make it look like a creature from a Godzilla movie, if you know what I mean. I also think that the way this all wrapped up was a little goofy, from the completely edgeless climax to the way that the conflict resolves.
That's it? That's it.
Though it's not all bad, as I said in the beginning, as the movie keeps a sense of heart that definitely has an emotional impact at the ending, along with its strong performances, good creature design, and sparing build up to its reveal, and dedication to its Indian culture roots and mythology. It's just a shame that so much of the movie is too slow, relies too much on cliches, and lacks in the edge and brutality that something like this really would have benefited from. Anyway, that's my review of It Lives Inside. If you like this review, you know exactly what to do. Please leave a like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss any of my new content. And if you want more, you can click or tap right here. It'll take you to my review of A Haunting in Venice, or just over to my channel where you can check out my reviews, my shorts, and my old shit. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I will see you next time for my review of The Creator, which ironically is going to be my first movie in Spooktober.